Lights flash, cameras clicking quick. Showtime, super gringo slick. Headlines buzzing like a mix. 20 seconds, that's the fix. Short and sharp, just like a dart. Gringo's antics steal your heart. In a flash, the show will start. Super shorts, that's where we part. Short and sharp, just like a dart. Gringo's antics steal your heart. In a flash, the show will start. Super shorts, that's where we part.
Welcome to another Super Gringo Short. I'm the Super Gringo, Sean Armstrong. Today, I've been scrolling social media and the whirlwind of rhetoric that has become all too familiar. If I hear the word Nazi one more time, I might just lose my mind. It seems that in today's discourse, the term has lost its true meaning, wielded like a blunt instrument to silence dissent and discredit those who dare to think differently. Let's be clear, calling us Nazis is not just an exaggeration, it's an insult to history and to the millions who suffered under real tyranny. It trivializes the horrors of a dark past that we must never forget. We are not Nazis, we are not socialists, we are simply citizens who cherish our freedoms, our rights, and our ability to express ourselves without fear of being labeled or vilified. Now let me ask you this, what happens when language loses its meaning? When words like Nazi and fascist are thrown around so carelessly? The answer is simple. We create confusion. We breed division. We stifle honest conversation about the issues that truly matter. We see this daily in a flurry of voices on social media and in mainstream media alike. The so-called loony left losing their minds over every little disagreement. They shout labels instead of engaging in dialogue, trading reason for outrage. But I ask you, what do we gain from this chaos? Nothing but division. We must reclaim our discourse from those who prefer chaos over clarity. Let us remember the wisdom of George Orwell, who warned us that in a time of deceit, telling the truth is a revolutionary act. If we wish to be revolutionaries today, let us start by speaking truthfully, by refusing to allow hyperbole to drown out rational debate. As citizens committed to reasoned discussion, we must stand firm against this tide of name-calling and hysteria. We must insist on addressing policies rather than personalities. Let's talk about ideas, not insults. Let's discuss solutions, not slurs. How can we engage in meaningful conversation about politics, conversations that are not just driven by opinion, but by knowledge, evidence, and respect? Imagine walking into a room filled with passionate voices. Some are shouting their opinions, others are nodding along without fully understanding the nuances of the discussion. It's a symphony of noise that often drowns out reason. But what if we could transform this chaotic exchange into an enlightening dialogue? What if we could elevate our conversations from mere opinions to informed discussions backed by research and critical thinking? Now, I know some may respond with dismissive gestures as if to imply that opinions alone should suffice. But let me challenge you. Is that really enough? Is it truly sufficient to stand on the ground of personal belief when so much is at stake? In our era of information overload, where facts can be twisted and narratives manipulated, it's imperative that we equip ourselves with knowledge. Let's reflect for a moment on the words of Thomas Jefferson. If a nation expects to be ignorant and free, it expects what never was and never will be. Knowledge is not just power. It is our duty as citizens in a democratic society. It enables us to engage effectively in political discourse, not just for ourselves, but for future generations who will inherit the consequences of our decisions today. You see, my goal isn't merely to win an argument or prove someone wrong. Rather, it's about fostering an environment where ideas can flourish through well-researched papers and credible sources. If I can find information and present it coherently, if I can write a paper sourced from reputable studies, then so too should anyone who feels compelled to challenge those findings. The essence of debate lies not in empty retorts, but in substantiated claims. So I ask you this: when was the last time you engaged deeply with an opposing viewpoint? When did you last take the time to research an issue thoroughly before forming your stance? The next time you feel inclined to argue your point, before you utter or dismissive comments, take a step back, equip yourself with facts, dive into academic journals, explore credible news sources, engage with books written by experts in the field. Let's make a pact today, a commitment to elevate our discussions beyond mere rhetoric into realms where knowledge reigns supreme. Let's challenge each other not only to express our views, but also to substantiate them robustly. Remember this: politics is not merely about winning debates or proving points. It's about shaping policy for our communities and ensuring justice for all. Let's strive together towards informed dialogue that respects differing opinions while holding each other accountable for the truths we present. We need to educate ourselves and others about history, the real history, so that when terms like Nazi or fascist are used carelessly against us or anyone else, we can respond with knowledge rather than emotion. Understanding where these words come from gives them weight. Misusing them takes away their power. I urge you all, let your voices be heard. Join me in standing up against this misuse of language. Join me in demanding better from our leaders and from each other. Let's fill our public squares with discussions grounded in facts rather than feelings. Let's create spaces where ideas can flourish without fear. Remember this: we have a choice to participate in the fray or rise above it with dignity and purpose. So I call upon each one of you: reject division, reject extremism, embrace dialogue rooted in honesty. Let's work together for clarity amid confusion, and perhaps then we will find common ground on which to build a brighter future for all. Let's take a moment to reflect on the current political landscape. Just recently, we witnessed an election that should have been a moment of triumph for the left, according to most polls, but instead turned into a resounding wake-up call. Yes, I'm talking about the electoral setbacks that echoed across our nation. And yet, here we are, watching as some continue to double down on the very strategies that led to those defeats. What I like to call doubling down on stupid. So as I ask you, didn't you just lose an election with this bullshit? Now, before you dismiss my words as mere rhetoric or partisan jabs, let's consider this. What does it mean to persist in a course of action that has proven unsuccessful? Is it determination? Is it stubbornness? Or is it simply a failure to learn from our past mistakes? There's an old saying: insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. Yet here we are at the crossroads of opportunity and failure. The left has embraced ideas that resonate more with ideology than with practicality, ideas that alienate rather than unite. Think back to the last election cycle. What were the messages that resonated most with voters? It wasn't lofty ideals disconnected from everyday struggles. It was grounded approaches addressing real concerns: jobs, security, family values. And yet, what do we see? A relentless push towards divisive rhetoric and policies that leave many feeling unheard and underrepresented. So I urge you, keep doing what you're doing. Keep pushing those policies, because every time you do so, you're giving us a clearer picture of what not to embrace moving forward. You are illuminating paths for change by showing us what doesn't work. Let's look at history for guidance. Remember when President Jimmy Carter, God rest his soul, faced overwhelming challenges in his administration? He lost significant ground because he failed to connect with the average American's concerns. It took years for Democrats to regain their footing after those missteps. Isn't it time for you to learn from these lessons rather than repeat them? Now is not just another chapter in our political narrative. It's a pivotal moment where we can either rise together or continue down this path of disillusionment. Let me remind you of the words of Winston Churchill. Success is not final. Failure is not fatal. It is the courage to continue that counts. But courage must be paired with wisdom, the wisdom to listen, adapt, and evolve. As we look towards 2028, a mere 4 years away, we must ask ourselves, what kind of future do we want? Do we want one defined by repeated failures or one forged through understanding and collaboration? So I say again, keep doing what you're doing, because every misstep you take only strengthens our resolve and sharpens our message for a brighter future ahead. If your goal is indeed progress or even power, then let your actions speak louder than your words. Let us remember that political movements thrive on accountability and growth, not on stagnation or denial. Let us strive towards unity rather than division, towards understanding rather than conflict. Together, let's build a movement rooted in reality, not in ideology alone, and prepare ourselves for victory come 2028. JD fans, have you ever paused to reflect on the world we live in today? A world where the glow of a smartphone screen often eclipses the warmth of human interaction? Picture this. Young adults in their 20s and 30s, armed with immense potential, are spending countless hours scrolling through social media feeds instead of engaging in meaningful work. What does this say about our priorities? What does it mean for the future we're building together? Let's take a moment to consider what I find telling about the left. It's not just a political stance, it's a reflection of a broader cultural shift. How many young people do we see sharing opinions online, tweets, posts, memes, rather than rolling up their sleeves and diving into the workforce? This trend raises an important question. Are we more invested in crafting our online personas than in cultivating our real-world skills? Imagine if that same energy spent on social media was redirected toward innovation, entrepreneurship, or community service. Think about it. Every minute spent online is a minute that could be used to learn something new or contribute to society. In fact, as Mahatma Gandhi once said, the best way to find yourself is to lose yourself in the service of others. Yet here we are, lost in likes and shares instead. Now, don't get me wrong, social media has its merits. It connects us across vast distances and allows us to share ideas like never before. But when does engagement turn into distraction? When does social media become a substitute for real work? We must ask ourselves, are we shaping our future or merely reflecting someone else's narrative? Let's consider history for a moment. In the 1960s, young people rallied for civil rights and social change. They took to the streets, not just their screens, to demand justice and equality. Their voices were loud because they were united in purpose and action. Today, I ask you, where's that fervor? Where's that commitment? The energy that fueled movements of yesteryear seemed diluted amidst endless scrolling. We must recognize that our greatest asset lies not within our devices, but within each other, the connections we forge through collaboration and hard work. It's time for us to reclaim that spirit. Let's challenge ourselves to put down our phones and pick up new skills. Let's engage with our communities face to face rather than through filtered images. So I urge you all today, make a conscious choice. Choose action over apathy. Use your voice not just online, but in your workplaces and communities. Be part of something greater than yourself, a movement towards productivity, creativity, and genuine connection. As we stand at this crossroads together, remember these words from Helen Keller. Alone, we can do so little. Together, we can do so much. Harness your collective strength as young leaders, ready to embrace responsibility rather than retreat into virtual distractions. Today, I want to shine a light on a critical examination that is not just timely, but necessary. A journey through my book, Bloodstained Banner. This work dares to explore the complex tapestry of socialism and capitalism, dissecting their ideologies with the precision of a surgeon's scalpel. It invites you to reconsider what you think you know about these systems and challenges long-held beliefs with historical evidence and analytical reasoning. Imagine for a moment standing at a crossroads. To your left lies socialism, adorned with promises of equality and collective welfare. To your right stands capitalism, its path paved with innovation, individual freedom. Which way do we go? And more importantly, why do we choose one over the other? In Chapter 1, The Myth of Scandinavian Socialism, we delve into this very question. Many laud Scandinavian countries as paragons of successful socialism. But let me ask you, are they truly socialist, or do they merely blend significant capitalist elements into their framework that drive their prosperity? This chapter challenges the romanticized view of these nations, urging us to look beyond surface-level perceptions. As we move to Chapter 2, titled Analytical Analysis of Socialism and Communism and Capitalism, we embark on an intellectual exploration, a comparative analysis that lays bare the foundational principles of these ideologies. Here I ask you, what are the strengths that propel societies forward? What are the weaknesses that threaten our very existence? This chapter serves as our compass in navigating this complex economic discourse. Excuse me. But in history is our most potent teacher. In Chapter 3, 100 years and 100 million people later, we confront uncomfortable truths about socialist regimes over the past century. We must not shy away from acknowledging the extensive human cost associated with these systems, the suffering that echoes through time like an ominous specter haunting our collective conscience. As historian Richard Pipes once said, communism is based on an illusion. It is time we unveil this illusion. Yet even amidst such stark realities, proponents often offer excuses for socialism's failures, excuses I critique in Chapter 4, leftists' excuses. These justifications fail to address fundamental flaws inherent in socialist ideology. They leave us grappling with unanswered questions about accountability and responsibility in governance. Now let's shift gears. Chapter 5, bring forth arguments for capitalism. Here lies a robust defense of capitalism's undeniable advantages, innovation, economic growth, individual freedom, all leading us toward improved living standards. Think back to history's trailblazers, the inventors who revolutionized industries, or entrepreneurs who dared to dream big against all odds. Their stories remind us that capitalism fosters creativity and ambition. In Chapter 6, titled Debunking the Arguments for Socialism/Communism, we systematically dismantle common arguments favoring these systems. Are they truly just ideals waiting for proper implementation, or are they rooted in inefficiencies and moral dilemmas that have led societies down treacherous paths? Finally, as we reach Chapter 7, Socialism/Communism's Death Toll, I present perhaps one of the most sobering examinations within my book, the staggering death toll attributed to socialist regimes throughout history. It is a stark reminder that ideology must never overshadow humanity. It compels us to reflect deeply on what has been lost in pursuit of utopian dreams. People are still dying under banners of socialism and communism. You would think after 100 years, we'd learn. Well, that's another Super Gringo short. Until next time, peace out!
Flash, cameras clicking quick. Showtime, Super Gringo slick. Headlines buzzing like a mix. 20 seconds, that's the fix. Short and sharp, just like a dart. Gringo's antics steal your heart. In a flash, the show will start. Super shorts, that's where we part. Short and sharp, just like a dart. Gringo's antics steal your heart. In a flash, the show will start. Super shorts, that's where we part.